Below is a single-scene story, fully expanded and well over 1,500 words, written in a cinematic, emotional style. The entire story takes place in one continuous moment, no scene breaks, no dialogue formatting, just one powerful unfolding scene. The denial did not arrive loudly. It came quietly, in the way humiliation often does, wrapped in politeness, disguised as procedure, delivered with a smile that never reached the eyes. The airport gate was alive with motion, a river of rolling luggage and impatient footsteps, yet in that moment everything seemed to slow as the boarding agent's hand hovered over the scanner and then stopped. The woman standing before the counter had already extended her boarding pass, her posture calm, her expression composed, the kind of stillness that comes from years of learning not to react too quickly. She wore a tailored navy coat, simple gold earrings, and carried herself with a confidence that did not seek attention. First-class boarding had just been announced, and she had stepped forward with the rest of the small group, blending in without effort. But something in the agent's eyes shifted the instant the name appeared on the screen. There was a pause, too long to be accidental. The agent's fingers tapped the keyboard once, twice, then stopped again. Around them, passengers continued moving, boarding passes beeping cheerfully as others were waved through. The woman waited, patient, accustomed to delays, accustomed to systems that moved slowly when they wanted to. The agent finally looked up, her smile tightened, and she gestured slightly to the side, indicating that the woman should wait. No explanation was offered, no apology, just a subtle redirection, as if this were the most natural thing in the world. Minutes passed. The first-class line thinned. A man in a wrinkled blazer was waved through without hesitation. Another passenger laughed with the agent, exchanging small talk, then disappeared down the jet bridge. The woman remained standing to the side, her boarding pass still in her hand, the unspoken question hanging in the air. She glanced at the screen behind the counter, which still read first-class boarding in bold letters. She checked her pass again, not because she doubted it, but because she had learned that sometimes people needed proof repeated twice before they believed it. Finally, she stepped forward again, gently placing the boarding pass on the counter. The agent's eyes flicked down and back up, and this time the smile vanished completely. The agent said something brief, something rehearsed, something about a seat reassignment, and a system issue, her tone clipped and final. The woman listened without interrupting, her face unreadable. Around them, a few nearby passengers slowed, sensing tension the way animals sense a change in weather. A man behind her frowned. A woman clutched her purse a little tighter. The agent slid the boarding pass back across the counter, not meeting the woman's eyes. The implication was clear: step aside, you do not belong here. The woman did not raise her voice. She did not argue. She simply stood there, absorbing the weight of the moment, the familiar sting of being quietly told no, of being reminded that credentials and tickets and achievements sometimes mattered less than perception. She could feel the heat rising in her chest, not anger exactly, but something heavier, the exhaustion of having seen this before. She stepped aside once more, this time fully out of the boarding lane, and watched as the final first-class passengers were waved through. The gate area grew quieter as the general boarding groups were announced. People glanced at her, some with curiosity, some with discomfort, some with indifference. She felt invisible and hyper-visible all at once, standing there with a first-class ticket that suddenly seemed theoretical. What no one around her knew, what the agent certainly did not know, was that this woman had spent her life mastering moments like this. She had learned early that power did not always announce itself, that the most influential people in a room were often the quietest. She had built a career not on loud declarations but on precision, on preparation, on knowing exactly when to act. The airport noise washed over her as she reached into her coat pocket and withdrew her phone, her movements unhurried. She did not rush. Rushing would suggest desperation, and she was not desperate. She scrolled calmly, thumb moving with practiced ease, and selected a contact saved simply under a first name. The phone rang once, then twice, then connected. She did not step away. She did not lower her voice. She spoke softly, efficiently, relaying facts without embellishment: the flight number, the gate, the boarding issue. Her expression remained composed, but her eyes were sharp now, focused. Whatever was being said on the other end caused her to nod once, slowly, as if confirming something she already knew. As she ended the call, the agent glanced up briefly, irritation flickering across her face at the sight of the woman still standing there. The general boarding announcement echoed overhead. A line began to form again, longer this time, messier. The woman remained exactly where she was, just to the side of the counter, neither obstructing nor retreating. She was waiting. The change came subtly at first. A supervisor approached the gate, her stride brisk, her expression serious. She leaned in toward the agent, speaking quietly but firmly, her eyes flicking between the screen and the woman standing nearby. The agent's posture stiffened. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard again, this time moving faster, more urgently. The supervisor straightened and turned fully toward the woman, her face now carefully neutral, professional. The surrounding passengers sensed a shift. Conversations paused. A few people leaned slightly closer, pretending to adjust bags or check phones while listening. The woman met the supervisor's gaze evenly, offering no smile, no challenge, just presence. The supervisor gestured toward the counter, indicating that the woman should step forward. She did, placing her boarding pass down once more, the same piece of paper that had been dismissed minutes earlier now treated with new respect. The supervisor scanned the pass herself. Her expression changed, not dramatically, but enough. A subtle tightening around the eyes, a brief inhale. She glanced at the agent, then back at the woman. Something unspoken passed between them, a recalibration of assumptions. The supervisor nodded once, then turned to the agent and said something that caused the agent's face to flush, color rising quickly up her neck. The agent reprinted something, hands shaking just slightly, and slid a new boarding document across the counter. This time, it was accompanied by an apology, delivered stiffly, as if forced through clenched teeth. The woman listened, accepted the paper, and said nothing. She did not need to. The balance of power in the space had shifted so completely that words were unnecessary. But the moment was not finished. The supervisor did not leave. Instead, she stood there, addressing the agent again, this time with a firmness that could not be mistaken. Other staff members had begun to notice, gathering subtly, pretending to busy themselves nearby. The woman stood quietly as the conversation unfolded around her, the airport hum continuing as if nothing extraordinary were happening, even as something very important was. The supervisor gestured toward the jet bridge, then toward the agent's terminal. The agent nodded repeatedly, her earlier confidence gone. The supervisor then turned back to the woman, her tone now careful, respectful, offering assurances that went beyond the seat itself. The woman acknowledged them with a slight nod. She did not gloat. She did not smile. Vindication, for her, was not about triumph, it was about correction. As she finally walked down the jet bridge, first-class boarding long finished, the space seemed different. A few passengers avoided her gaze. Others watched her with something like awe. One woman offered a small, approving smile. The woman walked steadily, her heels clicking softly against the floor, each step measured. She took her seat without ceremony, placing her bag carefully in the overhead bin, smoothing her coat as she sat. Only then, as the aircraft door closed and the hum of the engines deepened, did she allow herself a quiet breath. Not relief, she had never doubted the outcome, but acknowledgement. Moments like these were never just about a seat. They were about being seen, about systems being forced to confront their own blind spots, about reminding the world that assumptions could be expensive. The plane taxied forward, and outside the window the airport lights blurred into lines of gold. The woman looked out, her reflection faintly visible in the glass, and allowed herself the smallest smile, not for what had been taken back, but for what had been demonstrated. Power did not need to announce itself. Sometimes, it simply waited, made one call, and let the world adjust accordingly.